motorplex. Time gets away from us. It's been a long time coming, but thanks to a handful of people, you, Luke, and the gang behind WADragracing.com, it was decided that we should start to recognise those people that have been major contributors to the sport of drag racing over the last 40 years. I guess the burning question was, where do you start? And I'm glad it wasn't me that was finding that starting point anyway. But tonight, we're going to recognise a handful of people that have been involved in Western Australian drag racing for over that last 40 years, from the days of street racing in Bunbury and Gowran, to racing on the drag strip in Fairbridge Farm, to Ravenswood Raceway, and here to the Perth Motorplex. We're going to recognise those people that have had a huge part in bringing drag racing to where it is today. Over the next few years, we're also going to be recognising more and more people. I think there are, we're saying 50 spots all up to fill our Hall of Fame of West Australian drag racing. I need to say thank you to Martin Stamatis, who's been very generous in helping us get this happening as well, and also the gang from the Perth Motorplex for their support. Let's introduce our Hall of Famers, shall we? All of these people are still involved in some way, shape or form in West Australian drag racing. Before we introduce our Hall of Famers, of course, everybody knows Martin Stamatis, and Martin's going to be handing the trophies. Martin, nice to see you back at the track, and it is about time that we started to recognise those people that have been a big part of the sport.
Yes, I stood back the first community ramp up hill here again. I came back and I said, we can't forget the legacy of the people behind me. We owe a lot to them for ensuring the sport in the state and taking it off the streets and bringing it to drag racing, and certainly, you know, they're an inspiration to this people.
Some of the pictures that I've seen from racing back in the 60s are racing almost on gravel strips with people standing as close to the cars as you and I are right at the moment. There's some pretty scary stuff going on, and without these guys doing it, we wouldn't be here.
Correct, but I don't remember the 60s, I wasn't old enough then.
I didn't suggest you were. Now, Red's having a bit of trouble with the wind in these trophies, but anyway, that's what we're paying Red the big dollars for. So we're going to give you the trophies and you're going to hand them on. And our first recipient of a Hall of Fame award, Charlie Marcher. Charlie became well known as the first West Australian to exceed 200 mile an hour in WA. His Marcher mini drag through, he ran Western Australia's first T-bucket ultimate, and is now quite happy to help the boys get down the racetrack in their play dragster.
I've got a story here. In my very first national team, my first meeting in a blown dragster, we faced up against Charlie in the finals.
And what was the result?
Martin got the win.
Martin got the win. Charlie, yeah, it's good to see the boys out there now, still racing and keeping the market name out there.
The boys are keeping the name going, it's very good.
Did you see yourself 40 years down the track and drag racing looking like it is at the moment?
No, it's very hell of a lot. If you go back in the Ravenswood, when you come to here, you want to go on, eh?
Looking at the safety aspect of the car, would you want to hop into the same race car you were driving 40 years ago?
Nah, too slow.
Thank you very much, Charlie Marcher. Our next racer, a past Superstock champion, has been racing since the early days of drag racing in WA, from Fairbridge to Ravenswood and now to the Motorplex as well. To this day, still racing in that Toyota Super Comp as well. Well done, Graham Sims. The Silver Fox, as some people might like to know.
I think you did there.
Is there anybody you haven't got at the Western Nationals yet?
That's my race, mate.
Graham, what's the attraction? What keeps you coming back to drag racing?
I think the attraction is but it's just those times as I want to hop out and my business just has further reaches on you know, I'd like to thank everyone that's been involved with motorsport. I've had 45 years of drag racing. I started racing at Fairbridge and Gin and Bunbury, and I was lucky enough to have 4 years racing in the States, which was awesome. And I come back here and I think I've missed one season out of all the 45 seasons. So, you know, without the help of my family, you can't do this for 45 years. Every night in the garage, you've got to have a special person. Davey, thank you very much, and I love you guys, and I love the sport. Thank you.
Well done, thanks, Greene. Our next recipient, again, been involved as a racer, track official, Andra official. He's been division director in the past. He's still involved in Super Street. He's president of the Westside Drag Race Association. He was there right at the beginning, and he was chopping down trees at Ravenswood Raceway prior to it becoming a racetrack back in 1969. A couple of meetings ago at the Western Nationals, he was referred to as the Grand Poobah and shall forever now be known as the Grand Poobah of drag racing. Shane O'Sullivan. Martin, did you meet Shane O'Sullivan at the Western Nationals?
No, I grew up with Shane up. He was one of the influences building my first racer.
There you go. And yes, Shane, I'm going to ask you exactly the same question. What keeps you coming back to drag racing?
I think it keeps me young. I'd like to thank my wife and family for their support as well. But yeah, it keeps me young. It keeps me going, mixing with all the young guys. I love beating them, and they love beating me.
You've been racing the Valiant for a few years now too, haven't you?
Yeah. Started racing that in 1985 and finished 24th season.
Like it too much to give it up?
Yes. Except when I oiled the track today, I thought a little bit about that. I just won the first round, so I feel really good now.
Shane, you won't be the first. You're not the first to oil the track. You definitely won't be the last, so don't feel bad about it. Thank you very much, Shane O'Sullivan. Our next entrant into the Hall of Fame, one of WA's most well-known names in drag racing and in hot rodding as well. Of course, drag racing in the United States evolved from the sport of hot rodding. People pushing it to the limit all the time, making it want it to go faster and better and everything else. Better known as Iggy, Steve Eagleson has had many legendary race cars, altered, supercharged dragsters, funny cars, and he was competing right up until we lost him 5 years ago. His daughter Pauline continues to race in supercharged outlaws, although I must add, not often enough, Pauline. With 507 race number, her dad raced for over 3 decades. Steve Eagleston into the Hall of Fame, and the award to be picked up by Pauline Eagleston. Yeah, Pauline, for you growing up around drag racing, how did that feel?
It was good, it was exciting. It's just, yeah, what I knew, so yeah, I loved it.
And it was in the blood and it's just going to stay that way?
Yeah.
When are we going to see you back at the racetrack? I know you were there last meeting. You're racing tonight?
No, didn't get the car in, so hoping next season I'll be back.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of my family, and Dad would have loved it. So.
It certainly would. If you're watching now tonight, we're not doing on his face. Did you meet Steve at the Western Nationals?
No, there's one. He was up there. He was really hard to beat. But, you know, Iggy was great. All his hot rodding days when we were really glad to get out of all cars. You know, where could you find a 48 in the South Africa from? Iggy would know. And you know where his price was? Carter.
Yeah, and we're always going to remember that. There's lots of races that work exactly the same way. They all know where to find the bits. They've all got the right price. And yeah, carton of Coke or a carton of beer is a great currency in drag racing.
You couldn't give it if you never drank. You only drank Coke.
Moving on, and our next recipient has become synonymous with high horsepower engines. Started out with an FJ Raceway, progressed into super stock, where he and his arch enemy George Bailey kept Holden versus Ford rivalry alive with A modified production cars. And while racing his Toronto, he set many national records over the years and competed in super stock and pro stock nationally. Please give a round of applause to Bob Campbell. And Bob, I've got to say thanks, and it's probably a moment that you care to forget, but one of my first drag racing memories was seeing that gorgeous blue Nissan of yours when you brought it to Ravenswood Raceway and then properly planted it in the trees at the end of the racetrack. But for you, Bob, it's been a long association and you've loved every minute of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, over there at drag racing, I don't know what I would have done. You know, it's just fantastic. Like the people you meet in the sport, you know, whether they be competitors or people you're building engines for, they're just fantastic.
I say a lot, you know, 10 years ago somebody had to come to me and said I've got a 12-second V8 street car. I would have laughed at them and said it'll never happen. Are you surprised by the progression and the horsepower and just the technology and the way things are going with the engines these days?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you know, you see it over the years. You know, the technology is just unbelievable. Like I say, you know, it's just great to just to be a part of it and see it all moving ahead in all forms of motorsport.
Well, it certainly is, and again, thank you for your involvement. Our next entrant into the Hall of Fame started racing in FC Holden. Seems like everybody started with early holders, because there were lots of them around the place, no? The Prix say he started in a Prix. Started racing in an FC Holden, went on to a series of Ultras and Dragsters under the G-Force name. Ian Gimmick set a national records in both competition and modified eliminators. And Ed out helping the Catavarda's family. And what keeps you around drag racing, Ed?
Yeah, well, I guess I've always loved playing with nice cars. And the feeling of that pump in the back when you pull the trigger. I think now every time I see one of the cars I'm working on down here and leave the line, I sort of get the same feeling.
You ever get itchy fingers or itchy feet and think, maybe I should get back behind the wheel?
Yeah, but the back manager doesn't agree.
They never do they? It's killjoys, they back managers. Thank you very much, Ian Gimmicks. What can you say about our next recipients? The original Greene machine, a 6-cylinder FX Holden. Boy, has that come a long way since. Eventually reached the amazing Nitro Funny Cars and Top Fuel Dragsters down campaign by the pair. Alan and Cheryl have kept the Australian Nitro Funny Car flame well and truly alive. They've done it tough at times, but it's always great to see them out there. And they're not able to be here tonight, but we've got long-time crewman Andy, who is here to pick up an award. There he is. Yeah, Andy, I guess if anybody knows how hard it is to race nitro funny cars on a budget, the Greens do it. They just keep on coming back, and of course we're going to see them back here hopefully in the not too distant future.
Sure will. And absolutely wrapped in this, and yeah, they'll load the bus up. Get tomorrow to get the license.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll watch the website. What's the attraction for the Green team and for yourself? You've been around racing for a while. What's the attraction that keeps you coming back?
It's the smell of nitro. What else can you say?
You can't say much at all. There's got to be something about it. Thank you very much, Andy, and thanks to the Green team. Our next entrant has carved out a career both as a motor racer and an administrator of drag racing, and of course he's the driving force behind the Perth Motorplex. He has raced everything from supercharged dragsters to funny cars, setting the Australian Double B funny car record in the late 80s, the Thunder Down Under jet truck. You raced that at the Western Nationals.
Oh no, I did. I raced off the
How's it going? Gary's raced the 10-pound dragsters in Australia, of course, and in the Middle East as well. Please congratulate Gary Mayosovic. It's been a long road both for drag racing and to get the Perth Motorplex up and running, but looking around you, looking at what you and your team have achieved over the last few years, you must be very proud.
Yeah, very proud, Richie. Just absolutely love drag racing.
How are you, mate?
And I can remember back in the early 80s where Kevin Prendergast and the Collinses and ourselves got together and we resurrected the Ravenswood Raceway. And then now this venue with so many people involved and the team that run the Motorplex are just the best people. The races that are produced here and in Western Australia just gobsmack the rest of the country. Something we'd be really proud of, and that's because the drag racing family in Western Australia is a really close-knit, really strong family, and it's just great to be part of it.
A few years ago at Ravenswood Raceway, if we had 150 entries, it would have been an absolutely huge meeting, but these days we average over 200 entries to each meeting. The Western Nationals was a record. Are you surprised with the growth of drag racing in Western Australia?
No, because we actually got the government to commit to building it in the metro area, and you know, like actually 95 or 100 entries is good at Ravenswood, but to see over 300 at the Western Nationals last month was just amazing. So it's something that everyone can be proud of. Every last racer, every person, all the fans, the sponsors, everyone that's involved, they make the difference. And as I said, it's a drag racing family in Western Australia, very close. We all care about each other. Everyone races really hard, but at the end of the day, that's what makes a great sport.
Certainly does, and once again, thank you for your involvement in drag racing and the foresight, I guess, to make a gorgeous complex like this happen. Now, remembered for his series of snake train vehicles, and I guess when you say the name snake train, everybody knows who we're talking about. Bob St. Lawrence was ever the innovator. One of the great engineering minds in drag racing. He built his own all-steel engine, and I saw it on display at a Westside function last year, and it was an absolute work of art. He tuned top fuel dragsters during his career at the race track, and he's back again tonight, and we congratulate Bob St. Lawrence, and we'll move over this way. Yeah, Bob. Itself, I mean, a long time involvement in drag racing. How do you see the growth of drag racing? Again, has it surpassed your expectations?
Nowadays, yeah, I think so. Get better and better. And I think it'll just grow and grow.
The performances of Top Fuel Dragster since the days you were racing the Saint Train, does that surprise you?
Not at all. If that was coming, it's unbelievable. And I think that in the future, they'll probably get in the threes.
Goodness gracious, I'd like to see that. But how would you like to drive a 3-second dragster, Martin? It certainly would.
There's nothing like racing in nitromethane. I mean, petrol's for washing cars, alcohol's for drinking, and nitro's for racing.
If you could have one word to describe the feeling, what would it be?
The buzz like you'd never forget.
A buzz like you'd never forget. Bob St. Lawrence, thank you very much for your involvement in West Australian drag racing.
Thank you, everyone.
Two to go. Our next has a reputation amongst racers for his skill with all things mechanical. If you want to make it work, he's the man to see. He was a competitive racer in the West Coast Rumble at Gassa through to the Chris Mills Performance Pro Stock Camaro. Chris continues to be a significant supporter of West Australian motorsport through his support of drag racing and speedway here at the Perth Motorplex, and we congratulate Chris Mills. I know that Chris isn't here. Shane, you're going to just accept the award on his behalf. I guess it is always pleasing when you see these people that have grown up with drag racing and they put their businesses into drag racing as well, and they're not afraid to put their hand in their pocket to support drag racing.
Correct. Chris is a major supporter of the Motorplex, and now with the assistance of his son, the business is expanding all the time. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. He had a prior commitment, so I'm nominated to accept the award for him, and I shall pass it on to him.
Thank you, and congratulations to Chris Mills. And last but by no means least, arguably, WA's best ever driver. He is my favourite son here at the Perth Motorplex. He's raced everything from V8 drag racing motorcycles, absolutely scary stuff, supercharged sedans through to nitro funny cars and top fuel dragsters. Davey currently competes in the Australian Top Fuel Championship racing for Santo Ranazada. Congratulations, Alan Dobson. Davey, you have so many different vehicles down the racetrack. Is there any one particular that sticks in your mind as being the best thing you've ever done, the scariest thing?
It's most probably pretty unfair to stick one out amongst all of them, but my introduction to AA funny car was most probably one of the scariest things ever. Coming out of the super sedans or the super stock cars or the superchargers, and then hopping into those funny cars and popping it under the body and putting the body down over and locking yourself in. Well, that was a scary ass.
What is it that possesses a man to want to hop on board a V8 motorbike?
Oh, I mean, Graham Gowan done that to us in the early years. He'd come over here and race my mentors and heroes who were running top fuels over here and smoke the tyres from one end to the other, and I just thought, well, that's an easy way for me to do it. So V8 with no gearbox or gearbox chassis was great.
What's the future have for Alan Nelson?
Well, the future now is about me marking the speed for the mentors or standing amongst. All these guys here, especially Todd Campbell, I did the Dragracing apprenticeship with Bob for 10 years. He taught me the way to step and the rhythm to race at. And I'd like to acknowledge my wife, Jenny, for all the support over the years. And also all the crew chiefs like Greg Gower, Jim Patterson, and Alan Greene, of course, and all the team members that have come on with us. So we're just going to keep doing more top fuel. I was doing sixes, that was amazing. Then we're doing fives, but now doing fours is just mind-blowing, so we're going to keep doing that for a little while.
I got a lot to keep watching, and one day perhaps what Bob says comes right and top fuels are doing threes. Gee, won't that be an awesome day to see that. To all of our recipients of our Hall of Fame awards, congratulations to you all. Thank you all for 20 odd years for me, watching you guys get down the racetrack and do what you do with race vehicles, and I know that race fans around Western Australia love your involvement as well. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much. Thanks again, Martin. And thank you to the Perth Motorplex for their support as well. We're just a couple of minutes away from